These sentences had me saying, what? I'm your host Yusuf, and these are the top 10 countries with the longest prison sentences. Make sure you're subscribed and ring that bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Anyways, let's get traveling. Number 10, America. The longest sentence ever given in America was to Terry Nichols, convicted of 161 counts of first-degree slaughter, first-degree arson, and conspiracy by the State Court of Oklahoma for his part in the Oklahoma City Massacre of April 19, 1995. Also sentenced in federal court for chaos and 8 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Terry holds the record for most consecutive life sentences ever given to a single individual at 161 consecutive life sentences without parole. Due to such a large number of life sentences, adding no parole possibility, it can be also declared as the longest officially confirmed sentence ever handed in the world. Number 9, Thailand. This sentence is the longest non-life sentence ever given, and it's crazy. Take a guess at the number. In the late 1960s, Chamoy Tipayaso started a chit fund called May Chamoy Fund, which was made to look like an oil share with high returns. Due to Tipayaso's connections with the Air Force and Petroleum Authority, the fund was able to sustain itself for a remarkably long time. Her connections to the military were a huge factor in political and business power, and so its apparent military backing made the scheme seem legitimate. The scheme drew in 16,231 clients and was not shut down until the mid-1980s. The fund had a large number of politically powerful investors from the military and even the royal household, and as such, there were calls for the government to bail out the banks and the chit funds. After discussions with King Bhumibol Adulyadej, the nature of which were not made public, the May Chamoy Fund was shut down and Chamoy Tipayaso was arrested. She was sentenced to imprisonment for 141,078 years, but ended up serving only 8. Sounds like corruption to me. Number 8, Spain. The longest sentences given in Spain are 42,924 years, 42,922 years, and 34,715 years. The 3 individuals were sentenced for their roles in the 2004 Madrid train explosions. Under Spanish law, the maximum sentence that any of them can serve is actually 40 years. The release date is scheduled for March 19, 2044 for one of them. Both of the others will be released 17 days before them. The inmates will be 71 years old, 69 years old, and 67 years old. It's the longest non-life officially confirmed sentence ever handed in the European Union. Number 7, Turkey. Adnan Oktar is a Turkish religious cult leader, creationist/anti-evolutionist, conspiracy theorist, preacher, and pamphleteer. In the 2000s, he was engaged in a massive campaign of proselytizing Westerners to Islam, producing dozens of vividly illustrated books. In the West, before his arrest and trial, he was perhaps best known for his unsolicited sending thousands of copies of his book, The Atlas of Creation, which advocates Islamic creationism to French schools and universities in January 2007, and several months later to American scientists, members of Congress, science museums, and schools. Adnan was sentenced to 8,658 years for fraud and intimate abuse. Both were part of his cultish activities. Number 6, South Africa. Moses Sithole was the ABC butcher of South Africa and holds a substantial sentence for his crimes. He appeared to be a mild-mannered individual to those around him. At the time of his crimes, he was managing a shell organization, Youth Against Human Abuse, ostensibly devoted to the eradication of abuse. After committing his crimes in Attridgeville near Pretoria, Sithole moved his focus to Boksburg and eventually to Cleveland. By 1995, he had claimed over 30 victims, sparking nationwide panic. In some cases, he would later phone the victims' family for no apparent reason other than to taunt them. At one point, President Nelson Mandela visited Boksburg in prison to appeal for public assistance in apprehending the butcher. Sithole was sentenced to 2,410 years, with a minimum of 930 years. Number 5, El Salvador. One of the leaders of the famous MS-13 gang was sentenced to a lengthy 1,090 years in prison for many things. Mauro Salvatrucha, commonly known as MS-13, is an international criminal gang that originated in Los Angeles, California in the 1970s and 80s. Originally, the gang was set up to protect Salvadoran immigrants from other gangs in the Los Angeles area. Over time, the gang grew into a more traditional criminal organization. MS-13 is defined by its cruelty and its rivalry with the 18th Street Gang. Many MS-13 members were deported to El Salvador after the end of the Salvadorian Civil War in 1992, or upon being arrested, facilitating the spread of the gang to Central America. The leader was convicted of 24 counts of aggravated multiple slaughter between 2017 and 2018, being sentenced to 20 years for each case. Number 4, Mexico. A female serial executioner, Juana Barraza, is dubbed La Mata Viejitas, or the Old Lady Ender in English. Sentenced to 759 years in jail for ending and robbing 16 elderly women in Mexico City, although some believe that she might have over 40 fatal victims. She beat and strangled her victims using moves that she had learned as a professional wrestler. Her wrestling name, or ring name, was La Dama del Silencio, the Lady of Silence. The sentence specifies that she will be paroled in 2058 at age 100. What a rude thing to do. Who would go and end the lives of grannies? Number 3, Ireland. The sentence coming from Ireland of 490 years goes to Bernard Henry McGinn. McGinn was born into an Irish Republican family in Castleblaney, County Monaghan, Ireland. In 1978, Desi O'Hare and McGinn ended Thomas Johnston, a former member of the UDR in Keady, South Armagh. In 1979, McGinn was arrested at a disused farmhouse and charged with possession of explosives. He failed to turn up at his trial and was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment in absentia. After several months on the run, he was arrested in Dundalk, following a 27-hour siege, during which he held a family hostage with a pistol and a hand grenade. McGinn was released from prison in 1987 and joined the IRA's South Armagh Brigade. Initially viewed as an outsider, within several years he became a trusted member of the brigade, helping assemble devices used by the IRA in England. The devices made went on to cause mass tragedies, which landed him the 490-year sentence. Number 2, Puerto Rico. According to a police investigation, in 1968, Antonio Garcia executed his then-wife Gloria Soto with a machete. For this crime, Garcia was sentenced to 185 years in prison. However, he managed to escape 2 years later. In 1974, Garcia was again captured by a civilian in a farm in the Guaragao barrio of Bayamon. He was incarcerated in the prison of Sabana Hoyos in Arecibo until 1981, when he escaped again. In 1984, he broke into the house of Gilberto Perez Valentin, mayor of the town of Marisao. According to Perez, Garcia stole some silver coins, food, a machete, a flashlight, and a Smith & Wesson .45 caliber gun. At number 1, Norway. Anders Breivik was a convicted domestic chaotic individual who committed the 2011 Norway attacks. He was found guilty of the mass slaughter of 77 people. This could extend 21 years on each person executed, totaling 1,617 years in other parts of Europe, which is why it was the proposed sentence by the public for his crimes. However, the sentence was 21 years instead, with the minimum of 10 years. Although several European countries still authorize life sentences without the possibility of parole, many do not. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and comment if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time on Crime Time.